Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Rant. I'm Greg and I'm joined by Toby today. We're going to be talking about parts 3 and 4 of the new Obi Wan Kenobi series. Okay, so Toby and I have watched these two episodes. We actually quite enjoyed the first two parts. It's got a bit of growth. We could see they're trying to downplay Obi-Wan a little bit in that he's, doesn't want to use his force powers and so on.
And he wasn't that pathetic yet, was he? He was still kind of just reserved and kind of thoughtful about the fact that he hadn't done anything Jedi-like for 10 years.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So at the end of the episode, he's rescued, at the end of episode 2, he's rescued Leia. They've got on a transport ship and they've managed to get away. They're going to a new planet, Mabuza. It's in a mining system. So basically they head off here. But at the end of that episode, he's obviously just found out that Darth Vader is still alive. And this is racking his brain at the beginning there. He's got lots of, hearing voices from his past, he's trying to talk to his former master, Qui-Gon. And then at the same time, you see some images of Darth Vader. And he's
Hayden Christian.
He's thinking about, he's in his, I think he's getting his thing back on, isn't he? And all his it's being put on. They really love to do that, don't they? The old helmet going on, and
we've seen it a lot, haven't we? Now, by the end of episode 4, I think we've seen it like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
sequences like this. I don't know how many more they need to do. It seems ridiculous.
And they always like to do that bit where he takes his first breath in the Darth Vader suit, and it's always a good sound to hear. But they're really sort of playing on that, aren't they?
Apparently, it's the same sound sample as from the third film. They've taken the same one, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's interesting. But the whole process was slightly different, wasn't it, with the equipment?
It was
that sort of thing, So. We worry, not that we're worried about consistency, because it's a suit, isn't it? It could get graded and it could get changed, couldn't it? So So anyway, we see Obi-Wan on this new planet. Him and Leia have going to go and meet one of the rebels, one of the resistance, and they head off to do that. At the same time, Darth Vader is not interrogating, but talking to Reva. And saying to her, if you can get Obi-Wan and succeed in this mission, then I'll make you the Grand Inquisitor. Otherwise, there's going to be hell to pay,
And I think at this point, because we really hear him talking for the first time in this section.
Yes.
And you get a sense, the voice is 90% there, I think.
Yes.
They've used sound technology to synthesize the James Earl Jones voice.
Oh, I see.
And that is a new piece of technology they're using, and you think it's him, but then you look at the credits at the end, and it talks about this piece of tech that they've used.
Right.
But I think that works pretty effectively.
It works well enough. Well enough. I had I don't know what it is, but they cannot quite get it right. Like you say, it's like 90%, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just something little about it that's not quite right. It was like that in Rogue One. It was like that in a couple of other bits. He's never sounded
the tinny.
Same. Yeah, he's never sounded the same as when he was in the first 3 films, has he?
Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. It is a shame. Anyway, so basically, Obi-Wan and Leia go to the coordinates to meet whoever it is, and they don't show up. However, some sort of transport vehicle turns up with a guy who looks a bit like a weird mole or something, isn't he? A sort of evolved mole. He's got some very funny sort of tentacles on his nose, and he's very pro Empire. When they go around and he offers them a lift, and they make up a story about being a father and daughter who are lost and just.
Well, Leia comes to the rescue and kind of comes up with this story where Obi-Wan is looking a bit dumbfounded by the whole experience, doesn't quite know what to do.
I mean, you'd sort of think maybe he could have just used a bit of the Force, to say you don't need to know who we are. You don't need to know, and there's things like that would just come so naturally to him before.
Yeah.
Doesn't do, does he?
Or he could try and fail, and it could be something to do with the fact that this character has a strong will, whereas it's the weak-willed who.
That's true.
And the indifferent who are susceptible to the Force, whereas this character is quite strong. So that could have been an interesting little ploy,
Yeah. So they get on the back, don't they? They head off, and as on their route,
just by chance,
they meet some more stormtroopers
in the middle of a desert where they're just having a walk.
They get on, and they're like, "Oh, we're looking for a Jedi," and
who matches this description.
He got a beard, wears some sort of robes, clothes. He's carrying a lightsaber.
He's got a belt on that potentially could carry a lightsaber. And they say to him, don't they? Have you seen this Jedi? Like and it felt so stupid. Them asking. It just suddenly you're taken out of reality because it's so badly written that you wouldn't ask this of these people because it just blatantly points out that it's them.
Yeah, exactly. That was weird. But again, he could have force changed their, sort of thing.
And that would have been great if they'd like kind of sensed. He could have then used his Force, and then they would have just looked away and not been interested.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been great. Would have left it.
Could have done that. Yeah. So they get off, and then they get to a checkpoint, don't they? And Freck sort of taken to a checkpoint, and obviously everyone's nervous about going through the checkpoint. And that's when we have a bit of confrontation. Again, Obi-Wan doesn't use his lightsaber. He doesn't use any sort of Force powers. He's using a gun. But as they sort of get him off the thing to look at it, check him over, they bring a probe droid round and sort of look, and he then blows the probe droid up.
And there's a couple of points in this situation where if they hadn't used the Force before, he could have used the Force now. When the stormtrooper holds Leia hostage, he could have told him to sort of back away and put the gun down, and he could have done that. That would have been, again, it would have been brilliant. Rather, he does this rather risky shot from low down, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, he sort of puts her at risk.
Misses her head by about an inch.
Yeah. So obviously, when he's destroyed this probe droid, the signal's gone off to the bag.
That's important.
So that comes up in a second. But he kills those few, gets through this checkpoint, and then suddenly another little load of stormtroopers turn up, and with them is an officer, a female officer. She gets off behind them and then shoots them all, and she turns out to be Tala, and she's there to help him and get him to safety. I mean,
it's worth pointing out, isn't it, that it's very strange that they allowed Obi-Wan to have his face scanned. He would have known at that point that if the droid had scanned his face, that the signal would have been sent out. Why didn't he just shoot the droid? There was no way that he wasn't going to be identified as Obi-Wan. So it really is a bit of another strange aspect to the script that they should have really thought about.
No, absolutely. So we then see back with the Inquisitors, and picked up the signal, and what's her name again? Oh my god,
Reva.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. It's a bit of a forgettable name, if you ask me. All these names are a little bit kind of short and nondescript, like Tala, Reva, Hadja. All these, they all sound a bit similar. Nari, they're all. There's nothing too complicated, but yet they're quite forgettable in a way.
So Reva, who had sort of been told by Darth Vader, you need to succeed, otherwise, she goes to her fortress Inquisitorium, which is on this sea planet in the Mustafa system, And
this large phallic structure sticking out of the water, a secret base that no one's meant to know about.
Yeah, exactly.
It's clearly visible across the skyline for hundreds of miles.
Well, it's one of those water planets,
It is. Yeah, it rains a lot.
Yeah, it does rain a lot. So yeah, she goes there. She meets with the other Inquisitors, and there's this continuous conflict between her and the other Inquisitors. But she basically orders those probes to go out. We've seen the probes been destroyed, and then suddenly they're now saying, right, we're going to this planet to investigate, and we've told Lord Vader. So they head down there. When Obi-Wan gets to this small port or wherever, I don't really explain that much, do they? Where they go, what they go in, they try and hide up because they see that the Empire have turned up.
Yeah, and Tala has taken them into this tunnel.
Yes.
The way, what was it? What do they call it again?
It's the path or something.
The path, that's right. Yeah.
Beginning of the path to wherever they needed to take.
Wherever this strange path goes.
Jabeem, a planet called
Jabeem. Yeah.
Remember all these new names, isn't it? Yeah. So they hide up in this sort of, and then she starts to take, and then Obi-Wan sees Darth Vader appear. Down
the street, and it's night, isn't it?
It's all dark. They're interrogating all the local people.
He's randomly force gripping people as he walks down the road.
I think as a way to attract Obi-Wan out. Because they sort of think the Jedi are good and they want to help people and protect people. So by hurting the innocent, then hopefully they'll be drawing them out. That was kind of in the first couple, wasn't it? So yeah. And then Obi-Wan says to Leia, I'm going to cause a distraction. You go and get Tala. You get her to the ship and get her off the planet. She's more important.
Yeah. Stay with Leia. Tala, you stay with Leia.
Stay with her. Yes. Yeah. 2 minutes later, she's left her. Yeah. So he goes off and kind of pulls Darth Vader away from the town.
Lures him away. Yeah. Yeah,
lures him away. And then there's this kind of weird confrontation between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan.
Very weird. It's very weird.
It's not one of the best Star Wars lightsaber battles, is it? Probably.
No, it's probably the worst. I mean, I think the weird thing about it is there's been a bit of a promise here. We've had 2.5 episodes. We're going to have a bit of an encounter between the two of them. We know that Obi-Wan's not going to be great. What we don't realize is how pathetic he's going to be, and how much lower they drag Obi-Wan down with this little sequence.
This is the shame, isn't it? If they had kept it as the first 2 episodes, it would have been better, I think, if he'd just avoided this battle somehow. He'd managed to get away or trick him. But he was basically groveling, wasn't he? And sort of beaten down. He was always down on his, getting hit by Darth Vader and
what was that? Yeah, he looked like a rabbit caught in the headlights, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think that was the problem for me. He's obviously going to be his lightsaber skills are going to be rusty, and he's going to struggle with the fight. There's no doubt about it. But he should use his Jedi training to somehow avoid the encounter, or to at least put some kind of response to Vader in that fight.
Yeah. Especially if he knew he was going to lure him away, he would have had the thought in his mind, I'm going to have to fight him. Or
what am I going to do? I need some heavy objects to force move onto him or something like that.
Yeah. So then there's a bit where Darth Vader grabs hold of him, doesn't he, with a force grip? And then there's like
lifts him up.
There's like a container, isn't there, where there's like a load of ore or something that gets spilled out on the ground, and then Vader hits it with his lightsaber and sets it all alight, and then he just starts dragging him through all the fire because he wants to hurt him. He's saying, "I'll make
him suffer."
Yeah, I want you to feel the pain and suffer what I've suffered.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think that you can almost see the writers sitting around their table going, oh, how great is it going to be if we can drag Obi-Wan through some fire as well? Wouldn't that look really cool? The reality of it is, it didn't look cool. It looks stupid. And the first situation when this happened was on a lava planet.
Yes.
I mean, this is on a dune planet where they've had to improvise some way of setting this thing alight.
Yes.
And it wouldn't have been that hot because, you know, it's all sort of burning sand and mineral. I guess the fire's there, but for me, it was an idea concept that after some brainstorming, they would have realized that actually it didn't look that great, but they just went straight for it. And I think a lot of what this is they just get an idea and they do it rather than brainstorm these ideas and go through a creative process.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And then it was a bit of inconsistent because then Tala turns up. She's on one of the dunes or something, and she shoots down, doesn't she? She shoots a stormtrooper when they're running to get him, and then she shoots at the thing, and it sets alight again. And they kind of just leave Obi-Wan to be picked up and carried away. And it's very odd, isn't it? Because he was force gripping him through the fire and over there. He would have, you know, and so that bit really sort of.
There's a couple of things about that section that annoy me. Firstly, Tala shouldn't be there; she should be with Leia, as we will see in a minute. And Tala, just a citizen, you know, saves this Jedi Master who looks pathetic. I mean, she shoots from this distance. Why then the stormtroopers don't rush up the hill to take her? I'll never know. You know, Obi-Wan is once again taken down another peg.
I know it's a real shame, isn't it? It's a bit like they did to Luke Skywalker, you know, in the Last Jedi. That I didn't like the way they portrayed him. I think that completely ruined his character. You know, he just became a really annoying character. You know, and it seems to be a bit of a theme, doesn't it? To sort of beat down your main characters. You know.
Particularly the male lead characters,
that's another thing, isn't it? It has been like that. You know, there's been a few.
I mean, it's just fact. I mean, it's just the male characters often tend to be beaten down. I mean, But in any case, anyway,
he gets rescued, and that's kind of the end of that episode, isn't it? It's
the end is when the Leia turns up at the end of that tunnel, isn't it?
That's right. Yes.
And then
Leia turns up at the end of the tunnel, and Reva's there. Now she'd been investigating. She'd found the tunnel, but then she seemed to be at the end of the tunnel. Now I couldn't work out, how did she get to the end of the tunnel, or how did she know where the end of the tunnel was, or any of that sort of thing.
And she didn't even have time to get there because it was only like 5 minutes. And Leia's been running down that tunnel for a while. I mean, I don't know, maybe she's force speed, but we don't see this.
Maybe it's more of her parkouring over but that really didn't quite make sense, did it?
No, editing was terrible. It was like in episode 2 where they're on the buildings as you know, and she and it's kind of just it just appears out of nowhere, and you know, it's the editing's terrible.
It's not been great, is it? It's a bit disjointed in places. So she gets captured, and then episode 4 starts, and Obi-Wan is kind of all delirious. He's been carried away. You see him sort of waking up a little bit to sort of see he's been flown off by Tala. She's obviously got a vehicle which is an Empire vessel, and she takes him to this place called Jabin. He's put in one of these, you know, tanks.
Back to tanks,
to heal his wounds because he's now got burns, a bit like. And then again, straight away, they're doing like for like with Darth Vader. You know, he's. You see him in his tank, you know, all his burnt body and his missing arm, and you know, sort of thing. And he's thinking about what had happened, and you know, and they're really doing that a lot, aren't they? They're really making it, you know, about the two of them, really. When we don't really need that. I sort of think
we want a storyline,
you know, more out of this. That it's an Obi-Wan series. Do you know what I mean? It's that's one disappointment. They keep doing that, and they keep sort of
they do.
Keep tracking back with that.
I think partly it's a bit of a filler thing.
Yeah.
They think it's dramatic. They think it looks cool. So they put it in there. It's the filler. It's like with so much of these episodes so far, there's been little bits of filler, like stupid journeys picking up stormtroopers that has no kind of relevance to the storyline. You know, these little clips, it just doesn't really serve any purpose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So he's then healed. He's out of the tank and he's all fine. He talks to the people that are there, trying to persuade them, you know, we need to save Leia, you know, she's been captured, got to go and save her. And they work out that she's been taken to the Fortress Inquisitorius. They got to go over there and rescue her, basically.
What easier thing could there be than breaking into this scary fortress?
Well, they do note at the beginning when they're talking about it. Oh, it doesn't have, when they've got a little image of it, it doesn't have any
defensive shields.
Defensive shields. That's interesting. Handy for later.
Just a plot contrivance. It's just terrible.
So Tala, in her uniform, takes Obi-Wan, and they hatch this plan where she's going to go in, walk in as an officer, use her security clearance to get in there, and then he will, because it's on a water planet, he's going to swim in to like one of the air ducts or ports or something on the outside, and she will open up the ports when she's inside and try and cover his tracks a bit. So that kind of happens. At the same time, Reva is now starting to interrogate Princess Leia, and a lot of this, if they took some of this out of the episode, I think it would have been a better episode, because that let it down a bit. Reva was being outwitted by the kid, basically, wasn't she?
She was.
She couldn't mind, you know, interrogate her with her force powers, because Leia's got the defenses, you know, against it.
But that wasn't made clear. I think it's tricky because they can't hint the fact that Leia's got force powers. So they in a sense, they can't allow the other. They can't.
You're strong, you know, and I would have thought she would have sussed it out that she's force sensitive, surely.
Yeah, but then that opens up a whole bunch of problems, doesn't it?
Does.
With the storyline. So they can't really say. Reva can't figure out that she's got force powers, because it would indicate the importance. They would take her.
Yeah,
you'd put her in amber.
Yeah,
and then you know, so there's this child sitting there, and she's basically takes her to a torture chamber, this huge space, and a lot of Star Wars architecture, the interior design, it is really, really cool and looks great. But they've kind of overdone it with the space. They've got this one little chair sitting in a large room, and it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now on the chair, it's got these two big arms with needles. Pincering in towards this tiny little child.
I know.
A 10-year-old that looks like she's 6. It looks really stupid. And Reva's overacting. Moses Ingram she's overacting again with like, oh, I'm so strong, I'm going to do this and interrogate you. And really, she's a child, and they should have had a different approach to this.
They didn't give Moses Ingram much to do with the character, did they? Really, it was basically, you've got to shout at everybody. You've just got to be miserable all the time. There's not enough backstory for her character. There's no
guile.
Who she is, what she, you know, you get the sense obviously she's angry with the Jedi, and she wants to be, you know, ambitious, but there's got to be more to her than that. You know what I mean? And I don't think they should concentrate so much on Darth Vader in this series. They should have concentrated more on having one of the Inquisitors as the main baddie, you know. And they missed a chance here. I didn't mind the first 2 episodes because it was getting things going and so on. But I think in these 2 episodes they should have had a bit more about who she, you know, her background. Definitely trying to bring that into it. You know, that was a bit of a letdown, because
for sure,
just a very 2-dimensional character, isn't she? We had 4 episodes and we don't really know anything or really care much about her now.
And you know, she would have been an interesting character to look more into. I think it does highlight that we are lacking characters in this series. There aren't that many. There aren't many goodies if Tala's come into it. And she's had there's a little bit of background for her, in the sense that she doesn't like what Empire's doing. But that get a sense that maybe there could be more to Tala, there could be more to Reva. I think that ultimately it just shows it's a shallow storyline.
Like I say, they're all a bit two-dimensional, aren't they? No, and that's a real shame, because they aren't necessarily bad actors, they're just not being given the right role or thing
or direction
to do, So that's been a real shame. So Obi-Wan manages to get inside because Tala's, got in. She's used a security check. He's climbed an event somewhere and he's come out. He's killed one of the stormtroopers and chucked him in that water thing. And then he's skulking about. And for me, actually, this is one of the things I liked about the original Star Wars films.
Yeah.
That the skulking about, a small group getting into a massive, base or facility and trying to sneak in, steal something, or damn it, and that was always done really well in the first series.
Absolutely,
wasn't it?
And this is the moment where he uses his force for the first time.
Yes.
So it's the classic finger goes out, distracts them. There's a noise. The stormtroopers walk off.
Background, doesn't it?
Yeah, the stormtrooper walks off, and he uses his force power.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to get into it now, isn't he?
I mean,
and he's searching around. He goes into it. I think I found a particular area here. He goes in these doors, and it's like he says, "Oh, this isn't a base. This is a tomb," And you see all these sort of alcoves with these. Well, they're Jedi, aren't they? That have been sort of. It looks like they're in amber, like
it does.
It's like a Jurassic Park.
It's a very strange kind of Jurassic Park reference here, isn't it? They're what are they going to take their blood?
Yeah.
I mean, is it like you're going to see like some needles going in? Yeah, taking the midichlorians out of their blood.
Don't mention midichlorians.
That's terrible.
We don't talk about that anymore.
I know. But this massive space looks like it's got about 300 Jedi in it, and this whole facility is sort of built upon this.
Yeah.
There's no explanation so far that the Inquisitors are naturally inclined to take in trophies, other than the fact there's a shelf in their meeting room where they've got lots of lightsabers and hats from the Jedi themselves. You'd think you'd keep the weapons, but would you keep the bodies? And why do they do it? There's lots of questions here, and people were very keen to see the faces of these Jedi.
Yeah, they could have expanded on that. That could have been more either morbid or there could have been a real reason for it, but he just found these things, didn't he? And it was kind of, and like I say, opportunity missed there, for it to be a bit more interesting and a bit more of a plot line, very, very.
Are they alive? Can these? I mean, are they dead? I assume they're dead or frozen in time. There's like, is this some form of carbonate freezing?
Exactly.
Exactly. I don't know.
Yeah. So Obi-Wan kind of overhears that Leia's in trouble, and so he calls to Tala, can you cause a distraction? So just as Reva is sending these needles in to inject her and is shouting at the poor little kid, someone comes in. Oh, we need you immediately. It's not like don't interrupt my interrogation, for God's sake.
She didn't put the do not disturb sign outside the door,
exactly.
Did she?
Yeah, so she leaves, giving Obi-Wan the opportunity to come in and rescue her. And like all the lights suddenly go off, don't they? And the you see blue lightsaber chop down both of these guys,
which is quite good. I thought I quite liked that moment. Yeah, that was nice.
It was suddenly I'm going to be a Jedi again.
Yeah, I can do this again.
He could have shot him. Could have just shot him if he thought he was just doing that. But he got his lightsaber out, whacked a few of them. Great. We're starting to think, might be back on the right tracks.
Yeah.
So he's leaving. Tala is trying to convince Reva at this point that she's a double agent and that she was tricking them to help that, so she can get in and then find the lair. But she doesn't believe her, and she says interrogate her. But just as she's doing that, Obi-Wan and Leia have been discovered by a probe droid.
Yeah, all the alarms start going off.
Yeah. And that starts going off. So she's then right, quick, we've got to get Obi-Wan. So he's then rushing through the corridors with Leia, and he gets confronted by stormtroopers on either side. And he's suddenly, I've got my skills back now, and he's hitting the old blast back at them, killing a few. He hits one, it smashes the glass. Which
surely they would have built these places with blaster-proof glass. I mean, because there's every chance one of these blasters is going to go off and just completely destroy the base. That's
so
stupid.
That was a bit silly, wasn't it? But I mean, the idea, he then holds the glass back, doesn't he? And Tala comes round, takes Leia, and he's holding the glass back, and they're trying to get through the doors at the same time. And then he sort of forces it down, doesn't he? The wall, he
uses his force to push all this tonnage of water.
Yeah, and
there's probably like a whole planet's worth of tonnage behind it.
Yeah.
And then they managed to run out of the room as the windows
implode. To run out of the room as well, just in time.
I know. And she presses the button for the door, perfectly timed.
Yes. Well, of course. She's a hero. That's what heroes do. They managed to get away. And then the bit that I thought was really funny is they're walking through. He puts on a coat and a hat, and he's got Leia under his coat.
This is the worst bit in the episode.
Walking out through everybody, a security alert is going off. Oh, who's these really weird?
Yeah, we're looking for a Jedi in a long robe
and a kid.
Yeah.
Hang on, why has he got 4 legs?
What it reminded me of, and I've heard someone say this as well. Yeah. It reminded me of a Scooby-Doo episode. It's Scooby-Doo tactics. This is what I've heard said, and I just totally agree with it. This is exactly what would happen in a Scooby-Doo comic, or a cartoon, and it is the most ridiculous thing I think I've seen so far in these episodes.
Absolutely.
It's just so stupid.
I know, that really didn't work, did it?
It did not work.
And but as they're leaving, Reva comes out, they're in the hangar, and she's got a lightsaber, she's got some troops, and they're coming out, and just as they're starting to fire and everything like this, suddenly some speeders fly down and start shooting and defending them and so on. They managed to get onto one of the speeders to take them away,
which is a feat in itself, because those speeders are 2 people. They got 2 seats, one at the front, one at the back.
They did in Empire, didn't they? So
they look like even smaller.
Compartment that came open. I sort of thought, maybe there's a little trunk or something that they've squeezed.
Yeah, maybe, but I think that was again a bit of a squeeze. I don't know how that has been worked, or where the continuity is. They didn't look like they were very big versions of speeders, did they?
No, they didn't. As they leave, one of the speeder gets destroyed. So there's a bit
Reva does this force grip with this.
Yeah,
she grips like what looks like some kind of case.
Yeah,
doesn't she? And it flies upwards and explodes against the ship.
Yeah.
So you have to assume there are some explosives in this box.
Yeah, I wonder what it was. I didn't know if it was like a battery pack or something, and that it just, when he threw it and smashed it, it blew up or something like that.
And this one guy who's in the speeder has like 2 seconds of fame, and he thinks he gets away and then explodes.
Yeah. And it was all like at the end there, where they then get onto this rebel ship, don't they? It's all like, oh, he died, and it's like, well, we didn't really know that guy. He wasn't really a character.
Yeah.
Why were you making a big this? Do you know what I mean?
No connection.
So that was very strange.
I think that they were saying that partly because they wanted to stress people are dying for the cause, and that they need to take it more seriously, and they need to mount more of a rebellion.
Right.
I think that there was that was what it was hinting at.
Yes, and then at the end there, we see Darth Vader. He's force gripping Reva up and holding him up in the air, and she's, and a bit that we didn't mention before, she'd picked up the little droid that Leia has as her little friend.
Yeah.
And she says to Darth Vader, "I put a tracker on their ship, so we can now find them." And he's like, "Oh, I've obviously underestimated." Yes. And so the very last sort of you see Leia, and she's holding Kenobi's hand now, like, "Oh, thank you, and we're friends now." And little touching moment between the two of them.
Yeah.
And then you see her little droid thing, as the suggestion is, right, this is the tracker.
Yeah.
I always thought it's quite interesting because do you remember in the original New Hope film?
Of course.
When the Millennium Falcon is on the Death Star, and he goes, right, we need to put a tracker on the ship. Like, they bring out this massive trolley, right, and it's like a great big tracker device.
Yeah.
I was like, hang on, they need that for the Millennium Falcon, but they only need that for the that really did make.
Well, they've got microchips now.
but that was New Hope.
I know.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just joking. I think what we see is, with this episode, they really struggled with the storyline for this one.
Yeah.
So they basically tapped back into New Hope and just got it strung out a whole bunch of plot contrivances from that one, and just crammed them into this episode, running around the corridors. You've got the mouse droid in there for a moment. You've got the tracking. You've got Darth Vader sort of storming around at the end. There's a whole. It's really unoriginal, and they could have come up with something really interesting for this base. The one thing that was interesting, we learned nothing about the Amber Jedi. And they could have done. It could have been more about what is this base for. Could have given the base some narrative.
I think you're right. I think there could have been more about the baddies. There could have been more about some of the other characters. And have it a little bit more character. Detail. Backgrounds and why they're doing things, or what they're doing them for. They don't have any of that. And now that we've seen the 4 episodes, it's only 6. We've seen the 4th one. Like I say, that they're all very 2-dimensional characters, aren't they? They don't they don't have much about them. It's
terrible.
I know everyone was a bit on Moses Ingram's case, on the first couple of episodes. I thought it was fine what they did in the first couple of episodes in respect of character plot, because it was all sort of the start, But I think these 2 were the important ones to try and bring a bit more storyline in and a bit more personal detail. It's always the personal stuff that really works well, on these films. And they're just kind of devoid of that, aren't they? There's only a bit about Kenobi being a bit fucking afraid all the time and a bit pathetic,
What are they doing? I can't understand how they've let this stuff go out like this. It's so poorly constructed. And there's nothing of interest or very. It is so surprising that they should not take the time to make these great, because it's just 6 episodes, for God's sake.
That's the thing, isn't it? This is the thing. It feels like Disney Plus are they're probably having the pressure of feeling, we're not getting as many subscribers, we need to start getting loads of series going, you know what I mean? And there seems to be a massive drive. There's always a new series coming on after, and perhaps they're just churning it out rather than thinking, let's make this great. That's what we need. We need some great series. We just watched the Stranger Things, didn't we? That was, they put the time and effort into that.
That was superior.
Well,
they had some real creative minds behind that. That really saw that as a challenge to create a work of art. Whereas this one, they're just it's hopeless.
Okay. Well, the next episode is out next Wednesday, so we're going to persevere, aren't we, Toby?
We are going to persevere. I try and watch all the Star Wars stuff, no matter how bad it is. Because I look for that hope. It's like, I've got hope. And
when you think about it, there's not been that much that's in the last 10 years that's been of much hope, is there really?
No.
And I think we're eternal optimists that there's going to be another good Star Wars film. We've got a bit of it. Got a bit of it with The Force Awakens. We've got a bit of it with,
I like The Force Awakens,
Solo and Rogue One. I quite like those 2. Mandalorian. I think Mandalorian has probably saved Star Wars, because it's good. It's not out of this world, but it is a good series. You know, it's been really enjoyable and a bit more to the old style, which is great. But
then since the Book of Boba Fett, which was absolutely shit.
Boba Fett was bad, wasn't it?
It was so bad. And from that moment on, it seems like there's
not a lot happening, is there? And
it's partly the ethos.
They're always going back to try and, capture the essence of the nostalgia. They're trying with Kenobi, and it's like, yeah, but all you're doing is you're ruining the characters. You're ruining these really classic old characters. We don't want that. We really don't want that. Do something.
No, we want new, exciting characters with a little kind of sprinkling of nostalgia in the old characters.
Yes, exactly. I suppose in a lot of the way the Mandalorian's trying to work. It's a different character. He's in a different time period, and he's doing his thing.
And it worked.
And there's a few snippets of that, or and that's good. That works, doesn't it? It keeps us happy that we get a little bit of look, but it's a shame. It's a shame because I thought they could have been better after the first two. If it had been a little bit better.
We kind of held out hope, didn't we? Watched the first two. It had some pretty bad flaws in it, but there was still things there that we thought, this could be okay. And at the end of the review for 1 and 2, I said they need to introduce some good characters to this if it's going to work. And have they done that? We've got Tala. She's okay, but otherwise,
she's a pretty good actress. But like I say, she's not really been given much of a character to play, is she? And yes, that's what they need to get back to. If anyone from Disney Plus is listening, and please, please think about the characters first. Anyway,
right.
Well, thanks for your time on that, Toby. And
no problem. It's always fun.
We'll come back to talk about the next episode, and maybe we wait for 2. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe.
There's lots going on at the moment. There's lots. Series. There's lots of trailers and things coming out. We're going to be back with some more debate. We'll have Sarah back at some point as well.
Yeah.
And we'll please like and subscribe to our videos. We want to keep building this and seeing if we can produce more info for you. So thanks very much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Right.
I'm the first child. I make the rules.